Welcome to June 29th Select Board Sewer Commissioners meeting. This meeting will also be held virtual in hybrid settings. I call the meeting to order. Roll call, all members present. Public comments. This 15 minutes period is an opportunity for the public to address their concerns and questions regarding the town operations and programs to the board. No public. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, approval of meeting minutes, May 18, 2022, regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Next meeting on the agenda, review and vote
Point of
to
order,
approve.
Mr. Chairman. Perhaps an abstention should be recorded. May 18th.
The 18th. Was I there?
No.
No, then abstain.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, review and vote to approve warrants for the period covering June 16, 2022 to June 29, 2022. Town payable warrants FY 2022-51 and 52. Sewer FY 2022 SE 32 and 33. School warrants FY 2022 S26 and FY 2023 S1. Town payroll FY 2022-26 and MLP number 26.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Next item on the agenda, continuation of a public hearing to consider amending sewer use bill abatement policy I-2. During our June 15th meeting, we discussed amending sewer use bill amendment policy from single-family residential property to all the properties connected to the town sewers. After discussing with the Water Department and the DPW Director, track changes were made on the remainder of the document, and those documents were emailed to all the members. Is there any addition or changes we do need to make?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, for the record, the following your meeting and per your directive, we sent these policies over to the Water Department. Kevin Duffy also looked at them with the idea that, all subscribers would be available for abatements, and you'll note references to the Board of Selectmen have been purged from this. Decide for yourself whether this meets your criteria for adoption, but it did make those rounds after the last meeting.
So my only issue on this is on the second page. It makes sense, but it's awfully wordy. It says, properties that receive a second sewer meter from the West Boylston Water District for irrigation or pool recharge purposes will be charged the residential sewer use rate Tier 1 for 100% of the water usage for domestic purposes, comma, or for 100% of the difference between the volume of the water metered by the first water meter reduced by the volume water metered by the second meter. I read it about 6 times and I understand what it says, but that's an awful paragraph. I mean, that should be reworked to simply say, the water that flows through your second meter, as long as you're not putting it in the sewer, you don't get charged for it. Because people read that, they're going to say, what the heck does that mean? Everything else I had no issue with, except that paragraph is wonky.
Wonky? I didn't hear what you said, wonky?
Yes, wonky.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Crowley, if wonky, perhaps. I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, yeah, on the other hand, you have 4 fingers and a thumb, right? But if this is If the abatement request that came before you before is time-sensitive, and you believe, if it is indeed time-sensitive, and you believe that as wonky as this particular paragraph is, it'll suffice to entertain that abatement request on a more time, on a timely basis, perhaps you could adopt it tonight and amend it in August or September or so.
I don't have a problem doing that. I mean, that's, if the rest of the board doesn't have a problem with it, I don't have a problem with it. If we push this off another month, now
To correct it.
now the reason behind this, the person that's going to submit their application,
Can we change it right now?
yeah.
If Kevin, does Kevin have a thought
Rock
on
and
it?
roll, yeah, sure.
You don't need anyone from,
I do agree, it's overly wordy, but it does in itself define what the intent of the policy is. So I have something that you want to just approve now to get business going. And if you would need to revisit it later, or if you just decide, in the grand scheme of things, we all understand it. It does state what the intent of, the policy. That we wouldn't necessarily need to revisit it just to simplify it, because it does take care of what we needed to state. So I guess that's on you, but I have no issue because as we've all stated, it does take care of what needs to be stated.
You want to change it now, or you want to?
You want to change it now? or-
Give me one moment.
Okay.
I mean, why do we, reading it, properties that receive a second sewer meter for irrigation or recharge purposes, why do we have that first sentence? Will be charged a residential sewer rate for 100% of the water usage for domestic purposes. Why don't we just say, will be charged 100% of the difference between the volume metered by the first water meter reduced by the volume of water metered by the second water meter? Kevin, I assume the second water meter, it flows through the first and then gets remetered by the second? Is that the way these things are set up?
Yes, so there's one at the foundation to your house. So that's the initial meter, that's your water meter, if you will. And then there's a second meter, which I commonly call the irrigation meter. So it seems counterintuitive, but it's called the sewer meter here. But so that deducts what is used for exterior purposes that would not end up hitting the sewer drains.
So if we look at the second sentence after the word purposes, and we just strike everything from there until the comma, so for irrigation or pool purposes, or actually, we leave in will be charged, and then everything after will be charged. We strike everything through the comma so that it then reads, for irrigation or pool recharge purposes, will be charged for 100% of the difference between the volume of water metered by the first, 100% of the volume of water metered by the first water meter reduced by the volume of water metered by the second water meter. So we don't even have to say difference. So if we say 100% of the, so properties that receive a second sewer meter from the West Boylston Water District for irrigation or pool recharge purposes will be charged for 100% of the volume of water metered by the first water meter reduced by the volume of water metered by the second water meter. It says, I mean, that's, to me, that's a lot more straightforward than that whole wordy thing, and I think it's saying the same thing.
I agree.
What about the corresponding residential or commercial sewer use rate in blue? What's that?
That's gone. That's,
It's not crossed, okay, so it's still here, but it's underlined.
That's what I added. Previously, it just said residential tier 1 rate. For starters, our residential, I don't know if it needs to have.
oh, I might be looking at the wrong one.
So that's corresponding residential or commercial sewer.
I'm sorry.
Use rate, is that being taken
Yeah,
out?
I was looking at the older version without Kevin's.
So is that being taken out?
So yes,
Yeah.
the residential.
I think that should stay in there. Will be charged a corresponding residential or commercial sewer rate for, and then strike everything after that until you get to the word for, 100% of the difference between the volume of water metered by the first water meter reduced, no, actually, we got to get rid of the difference, for 100% of the volume of water metered by the first water meter reduced by the volume of water metered by the second sewer meter. So, just to make it clear, I think it should read, properties that receive a second open paren sewer, close paren meter from the West Boylston Water District for irrigation or pool recharge purposes will be charged a corresponding residential or commercial sewer use rate for 100% of the volume of water metered by the first water meter, reduced by the volume of water metered by the second sewer meter. And
So, well, we're back to sewer meter. There's no such thing as a sewer meter.
I think, they are saying
only-
about the,
There's only a water meter.
Water
There's no
meter.
sewer meter, so what's that?
the second meter, from what Kevin just said, is referred to by the water district as a sewer meter, because the purpose of it is to eliminate the sewer
I think
chunk.
he said they refer to it as an irrigation meter because it would be the opposite. The water going through the sewer meter we're talking about only goes to irrigation. You're not going to be charged sewer rate for
Right,
that water.
right, that's,
So it's sort of opposite to what you'd expect.
I don't have an issue calling it a sewer meter or a water meter, I just want to strike all that extraneous language.
How about water meter for sewer? Because they're all water meters. None of them are sewer meters. Go
I
ahead.
think we should keep the language as sewer meter as is.
Okay, so,
Again, I've always heard it called something else, which is an irrigation meter. I have seen that some other municipalities do call it a sewer meter. It's not measuring any sewer, it's just similar to a water meter, just measuring water flow, but they use it as a deduct. So while it is, it's not the term that I had seen previously, I think it is an appropriate term to use.
the only thing this policy is for the public to read. And
it's confusing.
what's a sewer meter? They're gonna ask, any public. So it has to be understandable. That's what you're trying to fix the sentence, so.
Do you want to just take out the parentheses at first water meter and second water meter?
I mean, they're both water meters, and we're saying how we're going to calculate the sewer rate.
I would call the irrigation one an irrigation meter, and
Then
keep the other one.
take the parentheses away from sewer and follow it with a parenthetical irrigation or pool unit.
Or replace
Right
it
after
with
that.
irrigation?
Yeah, and just,
Can I first, Mr. Chairman, go back to Mr. Crowley's initial statement before we got to the sewer meter discussion? So, Pat, under your proposal, where in line 3, the word sewer use rate, okay? So from the residential sewer use rate tier 1 for 100%, the entire second line.
But wait,
For domestic
I think
purposes
we may be
or-
looking at two different versions.
Yeah, but those would be deleted. What you're suggesting, it might be easier. So I bracketed that. See those brackets? So everything in those brackets would be deleted.
Yeah, and this stuff with the line through it already
Yes.
is already deleted in
That I
Kevin's
know,
rate.
but there's additional text that isn't.
For 100%
So
of.
if we bracket
yeah,
here and bracket there,
And
does
then,
that do what you said?
no, 100% of,
Domestic purposes. That is.
we got to take out that language
Volume
too.
of water meter by the first meter,
So it's 100% of the volume.
second meter. And then you could just, it's two
Do you think we need to make it here, the second sewer meter? The second meter
This as well.
used to measure the
I don't
sewer.
have an issue changing it to water meter, irrigation meter, or leaving it as sewer meter.
So that removes, that eliminate the confusion
Can I
of.
propose a language? How about we leave the top completely intact for 100%, blah, 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 for 100% of the water usage for domestic purposes, period. Then start a new sentence that says, that is the difference between the volume of water metered by the first meter reduced by the volume of water metered by the second meter.
Second
And
meter.
just get rid of
The adjective.
So if we just, in that paragraph, just get rid of all the stuff in the parentheses and just call it, if you receive a
First meter and
second
second
meter,
meter.
and then just first, and yeah, that,
I mean, and then,
they're both the same thing.
So the first sentence that says properties that receive a second sewer meter should just say second meter? Because second sewer meter,
I'm
that means
indifferent
they're
on that.
getting 2 sewer meters.
Yeah, so if we,
second water meter.
if we eliminate that sewer, and then down the last two, the word water and the word sewer be after the meters, or before the meters.
But I think breaking into 2 sentences too makes it a little easier to read. So the first sentence would say they're going to be charged 100% of the water usage for domestic purposes. So that just clears up what they're being charged sewer for.
Well,
And then you say that is the difference between the first meter and the second meter.
no, because we have to eliminate that, because what we're trying to say is people that, if we leave that in, the sentence isn't going to make sense, because then we're saying, or for the difference between these two. There's no reason to say they're going to be charged for 100% of the water usage.
Well, I thought the important part there is that for water usage for domestic purposes, and you'd have to, maybe you define domestic purposes somewhere else, which is toilet, or maybe we change it from domestic purposes to water that's going to go into the sewer. You know,
But if we simply say properties that receive a second meter, so taking out the parentheticals.
Yep.
Properties that receive a second meter from the West Boylston Water District for irrigation or pool recharge purposes will be charged a corresponding residential or commercial sewer use rate for 100% of the volume of water metered by the first meter,
Okay,
reduced by the volume of water metered by the second meter.
yeah, and just have it all one thing that's
That's
clear.
concise, it says what we're trying to say, and,
So in that case, we should remove the water.
yeah, and if we're
take
gonna
out
do
those.
that, we should also, in the next paragraph below where it says second slash sewer, just all instances of defining the difference between the first and the second meter with the parenthetical, we should just call it the second meter.
Yeah, we just call it as a first meter and the second meter.
So that's the next paragraph, and then the paragraph below where it says second sewer meter, if we just say second meter.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, the dialogue is great. I can see you guys getting on the same page here. Could I suggest something else then? If you want to adopt a policy finally tonight, instead of coming back another time, we do have some folks who are waiting for us. After we deal with them, on the town administrator search stuff, perhaps a 5 or 10 minute recess. Someone can draft the words, copy them up, pass them out to the board members, and then you can adopt comfortably, because it's otherwise...
I think Pat read what we want to do. I think it's pretty,
So, I mean, okay, so you'd be prepared to vote on what I just said?
If everybody agrees, we get rid of the...
I've marked up what we did.
I think-
Let's
And that's great.
read that, and then we'll talk about, and then I'll turn it in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we are ready to.
I mean, if we're all on the same sheet, I read specifically that paragraph. I think I'm ready to vote with with the changes as discussed, obviously after the public has their input.
If you're comfortable to go, Mr. Chairman,
I am.
then, yeah, by all means, yeah.
Okay, any comments from the public? Hearing none. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. Do I hear a motion to amend the...
Don't we have to vote to close the...
Yeah.
Vote, yeah, we did. Oh,
We didn't vote.
Aye.
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 all in favor, opposed? No. Do I hear a motion to amend sewer use bill amendment policy I2 as the changes discussed here?
I'll make a motion to approve policy number I2 with the red line changes that were distributed to us, as well as the changes that we just discussed in the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second.
I just have a question. Kevin, is this understandable to you? Because you're the guy that's going to be getting calls for it.
yes, I am okay with it, one comment. By referring to it as the second meter. And I just want to confirm that we did define that the second meter is for irrigation or pool recharge purposes, and it's defined as such.
It is.
Because especially with commercial properties, you can often have an initial meter and then sub meters. I just don't want there to be any confusion on that. So again, as long as the second meter is defined as for irrigation or pool recharge purposes, I'm okay with that language.
So I guess that the answer is yes, because under the water district's site, it says sewer usage information for outside water usage or long-term applications, lawn irrigation. The West Boylston Water District recommends installing a second meter. So I think they call it a second meter, so we'll just follow with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we have to take, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Sewer use bill amendment policy, I2 as amended, passed. Next item on the agenda, new business, consider designating other select board assignment for 2022-2023. This one is for the Pride Park ADA Upgrade Advisory Committee. So anyone interested?
That's not the one, is that what you're on?
This is a specific subcommittee for the items that are, all of the changes that are happening at Pride Park. This is basically the Pride Park Rebuild Committee.
So this doesn't
Oh, it's
now
just that we
merge
missed
in?
it. That's the TBD in here.
No, so this doesn't merge in now with just the overall ADA upgrades?
No.
Or we have,
No, this is a project that has already been funded through the CPC, and in the,
so there is such a committee called the Pride Park ADA Upgrade Advisory Committee? And they
That's the
meet-
one.
It was formed by this board.
That's the one.
Yeah, I know it was formed, but I'm wondering if they're still meeting.
yeah, they're the ones that are, yes, they're involved in the redo of Pride Park, basically to make sure everything that they're doing is being done properly. You seem awfully interested in it, Chris.
No, I don't
You
want
should join
to, I
that.
can't do it.
So in that committee, George Stigner, Kevin Duffy, Jim Padone, Rachel Brown, Lisa Thompson. We are the members. So we do need a select board representative.
I specifically do not nominate myself.
I don't nominate myself because my husband's on that board, so I don't think it's a good choice for me.
Raj, you feel like doing it?
Pat, aren't you on the other ADA one?
I am.
And you're doing a,
I think he's doing a
Doing a
great job on
fantastic
that.
job.
Nominate.
I would prefer not to do
well, I think personally, I know that it's a different, and it's,
If nobody else wants to do it, I'll take it.
did you make a motion?
I nominate Crowley for
Thanks for
this
nothing.
position.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Congratulations.
Next, concur on the following June 2022 town administrator appointment as printed in the agenda.
I make a motion to approve all of the appointments as printed in the warrant.
Second,
Motion and second.
I have a question. On the Pride Park ADA Upgrade Advisory Committee,
That will be you.
Lisa Thompson is listed as a term expiring June 30th, 2021. Should that be 2022? So,
Printed in the warrant with that change.
Printed in the warrant with this.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? And next one is concurrence on the following June 2022 Select Board appointment as printed in the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve those as printed in the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, acknowledge and accept the donations from January 1, 2022 through March 31st, 2022 in the amount of $80 from the local residents to be used for the events at the senior center. Just acknowledging it. So next one is consider approving the hiring of Carl Horstman as a fractional time van driver for the Council on Aging effective July 11, 2022 at a rate of $18.46 per hour. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye. Do we usually motion
No.
to accept?
We usually do, but I never understand, really. It says acknowledge. That one
Acknowledge.
above there, should we usually make a motion to accept
The
donations?
statutes regarding gift accounts, I think it's wise to do that.
I think I've asked in the past, too, when we...
It's wise to do that because gift accounts can only be established by the selectmen. Now, there may be one already. I get it now. So this would be a deposit into an existing account. May not-
accept a donation.
It may not require a motion.
So you
If
want-
there's an existing account already.
So we don't want to...
Good
We'll just pass?
You don't have to.
Okay.
Okay. Good, no, we can pass over that from now on.
Next, old businesses update on town administrator search. Few items to discuss questions for the final interviews, discussion on procedure for finalist interview, select date for the final interview. I would like to thank the subcommittee members for working hard to review and recommend potential town administrator candidates for interview by the full board. I think John will be here too.
Yeah,
On Zoom.
John's here, so...
On the Zoom.
So the first thing is discuss questions for final interviews. John, I believe you're going to put some questions together, get them out to the board. You can tell us what you think on that.
Yes, so if the board doesn't mind, I can put
John.
work back and some questions with Jim and can certainly present to the board.
John.
Questions for your review.
John, for the record, please identify yourself.
I'm sorry, John Petrin, I'm with Community Paradigm. I'm a consultant that was hired to work with the town in the town administrator search.
Thank you.
And I've been working with the board members and just want to congratulate the chair on his re-election and welcome the new member. I know we haven't met, but certainly look forward to working with you as we move forward with this process.
Thank you.
So, to Ms. Frieden.
Thank you.
So in regards to the questions,
Yeah.
that's what we're going to do?
Yeah.
John, that's what we're going to do. You're going to send them out to the board. If we have any issues, we'll
Yes.
send them back to you.
Exactly, yes. We can do that if that's what the board wishes.
Yeah, that works fine with me. I don't know.
So the second,
And for the process, the question is, for the process that evening, do you wish me, as we work with the screening committee, do you wish me to ask the questions, going through the process, and then the board can certainly interject any follow-up questions they wish or any other questions they have as the process goes on?
I'm okay with that. He asked the questions, and if we have follow-ups,
Is that how you guys did it? in the
Yeah.
end?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we
Does
did
that
it
work
before.
well?
And then if you have like a follow-on, you could ask if you had a follow-up to it.
Works for me.
follow-up, or if you have a question in general.
so the follow-up questions, how the one candidate to the other candidate, is it the same kind of questions or based on the,
It's always an
That's
issue.
what they said.
Yeah, it's
Based
always
on
an
the-
issue
based on-
sometimes, yeah. I think it's always an issue when you have three candidates. If you ask one something, but then you get to the last one, or you ask the last one something, you can't ask the other two. But those are follow-ups. so
My
I think-
follow-up questions, if I'm asking any, are probably going to be, as a result of what the candidate said,
That's what I think,
it made me ask another question.
okay. And then select the date for the final interviews.
So John, that 7/19 was the day you got everybody?
Yes, so we talked about, I know I understand that July 19th seems to be a day that works for the entire board, so we can set up the interviews for that evening if that is still good with the board.
Starting at 5 PM?
Always like to go earlier, but if that's what the board wishes, 5 PM works, and we'll make it work. It just makes for, as I said in the memo, makes it, a little later in the evening, but that's doable.
I personally can go earlier. I don't know about the rest of the board. I can get off work. My boss is okay.
Mark's in trouble, but
Mark,
5 or 4:30, it's the same thing, right, or 4 o'clock?
oh yeah, I mean I have to leave a little early. Was that how early you want to start? Is 4:30?
So, figuring roughly an hour per, so that's 3 hours, and then some discussion and, so we're talking, the whole meeting might go,
Whatever works for the board.
I don't mind 5 if it goes till 9, I don't mind 4:30, I don't mind
I
whatever.
thought you were thinking like noon.
No. So is 5 all right, or you want?
4:30 is fine. I mean, late in the afternoon is
I'm
fine.
on the department, so yeah, I'll just show up.
4:30, how about?
you have meetings on
I could do
Tuesday.
4:30, I could do 4,
Yeah,
whatever
whatever
works
you
for the
guys
board. I can,
4:30 is fine.
4:30 then, I'd ask for 4:30.
Okay, 4:30.
John, that's good with you, on, you can get
At
everybody?
4:30, so 4:30 gets us, with the end of the interviews, we need 3.5 hours generally, as the screening committee saw, so we can get it done in approximately 3.5 hours, so that brings us to 8 o'clock, and then the board can have its discussion after that.
Okay. So all the board members will get the application resumes beforehand?
So we're looking at, we're doing background checks and reference checks right now. So we're looking at having that to you the week prior to. So July 11th, I think, is the target date I set,
Yep.
to have the information to you as to the background and our
July
reference
11th.
review.
Okay. So after that, you will be sending the resumes to everyone, entire select board?
Yes, so we'll get that out to the select board. I'll work with Jim. We'll have it in PDF format, so we can email it to each of the members of the board. I think, like I said, July 11th is what we're looking at, so you'll have only 8 days in advance. And if any of you have questions or anything in there, please give me a call, and we can certainly discuss, any questions you may have on a one-on-one basis.
You have any questions? Yeah.
John, so in regards to the questions, are you going to get those out to us a little earlier?
Yes, no,
Okay.
I'll work on that in the next day or 2 to get those out. And if you want to just send me comments on those questions, we can work through those.
That's fine.
So can we add on some questions too, or?
These are your questions. I always caution, an hour as a committee, so an hour can go by fairly quick, on interviews. So I would just need to make sure I understand what are the priority questions, that the committee may have if there's too many questions. So that's what we'll have to work on.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions?
No, I'm good with that. Thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate working with the board members. I want to thank the screening committee for all that work they did in getting us to the point of having finalists.
Thank you. So next item is town administrator's report.
Just in regards to the search, I don't know if it was said, I know John might we're bringing 3 candidates forward. We interviewed 6, and we're bringing 3 forward. Okay, thank you.
Just a couple follow-up items from my last administrator's report, Mr. Chairman. At your last meeting, I did say that housing consultant proposals were due a week ago. We did not receive any proposals. So I'm going to have to get together with perhaps the Affordable Housing Group or whomever, whatever group coordinates that activity and see where we go from here. The prior services contract expires tomorrow. And again, I don't know where we go from here.
Pat, is that the thing we do with the CPC? I don't know, what expires?
The deal with COG, the contract we have with them.
Isn't it the, the Affordable Housing Group?
But this is the, is this the one
It's the
that,
money from them.
the
from that
CP,
group, yeah.
Uh,
the person they hire with CPC funds?
That's my understanding, yeah.
So why do you need it before July 1st?
Because technically the contract expires at the end of
Just
the
to deal
fiscal
with
year.
that.
And the person that's currently doing it didn't put in a bid?
You put out RFPs. I was surprised at the lack of activity. They were due at noon last Wednesday.
Yeah, Pat reached out to the current one. I don't know when that happened.
We had a meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust had a meeting scheduled. There was an issue with the Zoom connection, so they have another one scheduled. Did
I
we
don't know
pick
what
it?
they settled on.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I'll check to see if, while the instructions, the submission instructions in the RFP did say that they would do it at the town administrator's office at noon last Wednesday, perhaps they went to elsewhere. Perhaps there was a submission. I don't know.
It just seems odd to me that the people that are currently doing it, who are, doing a good job for us and they're making money, it's what they do for a living, that they would just say, the contract's up, I don't want bid.
I'll reach out to them. I'll reach out to them and see if a submission was made and perhaps misdirected to some other party.
Have you talked to Pat at all about it?
No, I just learned today that Pat Halpin is still on the, just today, I learned that Pat Halpin, I remember her from 7 years ago because we were changing vendors.
That was 7 years ago we switched who we were using?
Yeah.
I would have
yeah,
said,
we've gotten
I would have said 2.
a bunch of emails in regards to scheduling the meeting. She might, I don't think she said
I
anything.
don't know if she
about-
settled on one
Yeah.
yet.
So when we have our next meeting, we'll let you know if you don't talk to Pat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I said year-end activities are ongoing. They're going swimmingly well. We have our binders for insurance coverage for next year. We have all the closeout activities are going well, and those things that we're responsible for administratively in our office are on track. So that transition from 22 to 23 is going well. The ADA transition plan, I did speak to the consultants on that. It's about 75% completion as of a week ago Friday, and the submission will be in the second week in July. The submission of the transition plan document. And I did discuss with the town accountant encumbering the encumbrance into fiscal '23 to be able to cover that expense when it's doable. Payment was actually withheld from them in one instance because they didn't meet their deliverable requirement prior to my...
That's good. Okay, I was going to say, I was hoping we had withheld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that, we were dealing with, I say his name is Mike.
At the Collins Center, I got it. What? Edwards.
Mike Edwards, thank you.
Yeah.
From the Collins Center, we being the Disability Commission.
Yeah.
Going back months ago, we were supposed to be getting interim progress reports. This is where we have kind of working with the Disability Commission. None of that happened, and now they're just going to say, in mid-July, they're going to say, here's the final report.
I don't know about that. I can tell you, I was told that they were mitigating personal circumstances involved in the delay. That, frankly, I won't say on camera.
That's fine.
But we talked about his work to date. Apparently, the transition plan in question isn't the only work that he's been doing. You mentioned Pride Park and other activities as well. And I guess he secured variances, for you on various town properties with the Disability Commission in Boston. But in terms of reporting of late, no, it hasn't happened. But
It's a little concerning because, the town voted to have a disability commission, which, people volunteer their time. One of the things we did was hire the Collins Center to do this for us, to work with the Disability Commission to come up with this report. And there was, he came to one meeting, then basically said, yep, working on the report, we'll have an interim to you, and that was it. We haven't heard anything since then.
Okay. When I had my transition meeting with Nancy Lucia, she said, this is one of your, rattle their cage, get this thing going again. So that was one of my, one of the front burner issues that, that she handed to me. So I'll get my arms around it and,
Okay, thank you.
and get it back. And I did do some follow-ups with Selectman Pedoni on some questions that she raised at the last meeting, particularly on trees and funding sources and things like that. So we have had some dialogue. And just so you know, as a follow-up basis, I did do that. And that's my very brief.
I have a question. So this report here, is this, it states, it looks like there's 17 trees in the entire town that only need to come down?
Kevin does say in the memo that those are the reported
The
ones.
reported trees.
Those are
Okay, so there's
reported only. There's a lot.
Okay, so that was kind of my question from the last time, is I knew there was a large amount of trees.
Yeah.
So this made me feel happier, because 17 trees, I assume, was an easy that could be done next year, but, so do you,
And the year starts next week.
that's why I was asking, the amount of money to pull down 17 trees and do stumps, but it sounds like there are a lot more.
Yes, according to Kevin, and it's no surprise, West Boylston is not unique.
Yeah.
We talked about the reasons, the last 5 years have been very, very difficult.
And I think my question was in reference to if we had, what would be the amount of money needed to take the trees down this year versus, I think we put $24,000 in this fund that's going to take down.
You say this year, you mean starting July 1st?
Starting July 1st, there's $24,000 to take down the trees, not do stump grinding, take down 17 trees. So my question was, based on what I heard, because there was a large inventory of trees, what would be the amount to take those down in 1 year or 2 years to actually have a plan? Because $24,000 isn't going to get us.
Right. And I did find that the article balance, you had a standalone article on a town meeting warrant, I don't know when, but you appropriated $25,000. There's about a $22,000 balance there. The DPW director was told that, to the extent possible, try and make that last 3 years.
Yes.
So the questions, and I did follow up on these ADA, ARPA eligible activities. Yes, they are. I've got the ARPA balances, but I imagine you've got a working group on ARPA funds around here anyway, so I don't know what the ask.
You imagine wrong.
Right.
We don't have a working group.
Okay.
So at 3 years, if we had to make that $25,000 or $24,000 last, that's $8,000 a year for tree removal. That's,
My feeling is, we are doing more than $8,000.
Yeah, definitely.
We are doing more than $8,000.
Yeah, we're trying to scratch together a plan here to address a problem that, could only get worse if it's not addressed. The DPW director tells me, though, and I get it, that even if you had $100,000 to put to this effort, there's no, you're not going to solve this problem with, with $100,000 and what's left in articles and in the annual operating budget. It's a big, it's a big nut to crack.
But we don't know that because we only have a list of that many trees with no numbers.
so I have a list
So
of
if you
17
but I'm just
trees
saying, yeah.
and $24,000 over a 3-year period of time.
seem like we're okay.
Yeah, I can't relate to that.
Yes, so if it's again, I don't
I get what
know.
you're saying.
We're developing, we're in the development phase, we're trying to make a game plan here.
Yeah, because you
And I'm
mentioned
just
you talked to
reporting progress.
Christina, but in
I
regards to
brought it up.
exact, I know that, but you said you talked to her. Is that what it was in regards to? Putting a plan together and a list?
Yeah, that was one of the topics, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm reporting back to the full board on, on that very thing, as a follow-up from your last meeting.
So I just have a question on
We don't
the,
have a full game plan yet, but we're working on it.
on the money piece.
Yeah.
I want to make, I don't know that you're looking at this right. I think there's $24,000 in the FY '23 budget,
That is correct.
plus there's $22,000 on top of that.
That is correct.
That's in an article. The $22,000 can be used whenever, but what Jim just said was the DPW director was told to try to make this last 3 years. So that's like the emergency funds if the 24 runs out.
So that concerns me, because last time I asked that question, I'm pretty sure I was in one of these meetings, and I'll look at my notes because I have a new computer, I was told we had used all of our funds for trees because there was the issue brought up, I think Raj or Chris had said about how are we going around to grind all the stumps? And there was an issue brought up, like there wasn't enough in a budget. So now I'm hearing there's $22,000 left in the budget?
That's not a budget.
Not in an article.
I think, the grinding of the stumps we got some grant. Nancy got one grant, and from the grant, we did, rented a grinder, and then they used the grinder for a month or so.
We have
That's where
Kevin-
the
we
money
have
came
Kevin.
from.
Yeah, I was
Kevin
gonna-
is still here.
Yeah.
Kevin, are you here?
He's hiding.
Do you
Okay.
have any comment on this?
Kevin, do you had 22,000 left in this article from last year for tree removal?
Yes, there is 22,000 in the emergency fund for
Okay.
tree removal.
So from the prior year, and there's 23 or 4,000 for fiscal FY '23, giving you 46,000 in funds to remove trees.
Correct.
Okay,
So the 22 was the article
Yes, it is.
that passed, that comes into effect July 1st?
No,
No.
that happened,
So the article had no sunset clause, it was just an article for
That is correct.
22,000 for trees to use whenever.
that is correct.
So
Oh, that's
I guess the question we need to know is the list there and the other list,
Yep.
and then prioritizing them, and then we can say 100,000 won't be enough.
We're working on cataloging that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, so I just asked that to
Yeah.
bring that
Thank
back
you.
to the board,
Yeah, we got a ways to go here.
future meeting.
Can I ask one question on that? I'm curious about the light plants' involvement in the tree work, because, I mean, they do a great job keeping the wires clear. Do they
Yeah,
help?
That's
by
a,
doing
that's a very,
Kevin will tell you
I think,
that,
my end,
Help us, yeah.
Yeah, they do help.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin, you want to speak on that?
Yes. Municipal light plant, they're on a 5-phase program. I want to say that they've completed 2 phases and they're in their third, but I don't want to speak for them. But the intent is to go around and anything within a certain proximity of their electric lines that they go through and they remove those branches that are deemed to be hazardous.
So
In
Kevin,
addition to that, they also, if there is a situation where DPW staff can't get something in-house and it's not something worth getting a contractor involved in, maybe it's just 1 leader that's hanging, we do reach out to them and they're able to use their bucket truck because that has a little bit more height and reach than we are able to provide ourselves. So they do provide us support in that endeavor.
Kevin, we are not charged for that, right?
No.
Okay, thank you.
that crossed things off that were.
I was being funny, I'm crossing the ones off on her street.
Oh, so this just gives a street address,
All the trees on those streets.
Those are reported ones. I'll give you those reports.
yeah,
They just came in, I think, this week.
okay.
Thank you.
To clarify, one of those addresses has 4 or 5, probably 60 to 75 foot trees.
Newton
So
Street.
just when you're looking at that, it's not necessarily there's one small tree at that house. There's significant trees.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So next meetings, invitations, and announcement. I think
There's nothing.
Is this for board?
No,
members?
future agenda items and selectmen board reports.
no, we have a meetings, invitations,
Oh, meetings, invitations, and announcements?
We received none.
Okay.
So just,
but we do need to mention the select board meetings, special meetings, and then we do have one special meeting. Yeah.
no, just add
right?
I don't know if it's special, it's a regular scheduled meeting, right?
No, the 7/6/22 is a special meeting. Is that right?
Well, we canceled the meeting, and then we uncanceled it, essentially, is what it boils down
Oh,
to.
that would have been a regular date?
Yeah,
Oh, would have been? Oh.
that was the date for
So
her.
our next meeting's the 20th, that's our normal meeting.
No, we're meeting on the 6th now.
6th.
So we do need to have a special meeting to close out on the financials
Yes, we do.
on 7/6.
Yeah,
Yes, we
do.
like we always do.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's at 6 PM?
yes.
Okay. And future agenda items, select board reports.
So I did have what I'm just a select board report. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the lighting department, the last meeting they had. They actually voted, we had Pat Intuition here about the Mixter building. So the light department, after that, and after realizing that the park wasn't put back in its original state, has offered to move the light pole and one of the other boxes that are in the field for free. They're going to move it out of the field so the field can actually be developed. So that was something I thought that was really great. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Couple of things. This is under reports from the Celebrations Committee. Friday, July 29th, 8:30-ish, whenever the sun goes down. Sunset is 8:15. We don't know the exact time, but figure 8:30-ish is going to be the first Movies on the Common. We don't know what the movie's going to be yet. It's going to be free to the public. We believe that there's going to be popcorn that is either going to be for sale for a nominal fee or that may also be free, but the date of the 29th is set. That the date has been requested from for the field use facility. A save the date as of right now, October 29th is going to be the Fall Festival. A lot more to come on that, a lot more planning to happen on that, but the date we're looking at for that is October 29th. And then for a future agenda item, I had touched on it briefly. We are going to be receiving or have received money from the opioid settlement. I want to put it on as a future agenda item to see if it's possible to earmark that money, or what the process is to earmark that money specifically for Board of Health use. Obviously, that, up for discussion on the board, but I'd like to see that on a future agenda item. And that's all I have.
Specific, yeah. go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we started working on the opioid business. I did reach out to to Mr. Barrow from the Board of Health. I spoke to Chief Welsh about it this morning, and I haven't spoken to the PD yet. But we do anticipate receiving some money. Some numbers have been thrown around, but nothing has been firmed up. We know the percent of our allocation is 1.2227 of what the state distribution is going to be, and I think that's a population formula-driven thing. I've spoken to actually another fire official who's very familiar with EMS business for police and fire answering drug overdose calls and things like that. I mean, there's a whole host of
Yeah, it could be
things.
Narcan for the fire department and stuff. I just want to have the discussion.
Yeah, even on ambulance runs, and with the onboard computer systems tracking the type of call and other things is fairly easy to do. So to cull further from that data, on drug overdose calls, it's easy to see what call was from an uninsured patient. And if an average ambulance run is about $1,500 for that type of a call, some opioid money could go to backfill.
I just want to make sure it doesn't go into the general fund.
Yeah, we're not.
I think it's very specific on what we can spend it on.
And that's what we're trying. Yeah, that's what we're trying to get to right now.
I don't think it can go.
Okay.
But the other thing is, so I agree with Pat, we should talk about it, but we should not talk about it till we know what the amount is. Correct?
Fair enough, yep.
Yeah, because it's, if it's $500 or $5,000,
And what the activities are too.
then we can get the
So-
list of, I know it was very specific on what we could spend it on.
So my bandwidth is pretty narrow right now, but we're going to use There's a region EMS group. I know there's a regional police group, and I understand the district attorney's office has some. So we're gonna unleash them.
So it sounds like it's not, we're not there yet. So
We're not there,
Okay.
but we've started. We're working on it.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more thing for future. I don't know if it should be a future agenda item, but I was just made aware, I think I had sent a note on this. So if a resident takes out a building permit or doesn't and builds something on their property, our recourse is to fine them. But when I was recently reading through everything at the time, we actually don't have any amount that we fine for someone for violating residential zoning, commercial zoning. There's no fee structure in it. Building a shed
I'm in week
that's-
4 here, I don't know, but customarily, towns have a so-called non-criminal disposition process. And it has to be adopted in your bylaws, and the fine structure is supposed to be in there.
So I saw it in other towns, and when I went looking for it, I realized we actually don't have any of that here.
You don't have a non-criminal disposition bylaw?
No, so it's almost, the recourse is, we tell you, even if you're court ordered to take it down, we don't have a recourse to fine you
Can
to
we,
take it down.
can we put it as a future agenda items?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if we have it, maybe it's just there. I just couldn't find it on our website and through the zoning area.
I wouldn't be surprised if you do have it, but I'll dig in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then the only thing I have is, you mentioned the APRA money. Again, I would like to work on a plan, because lately, I think at the beginning, all we did is, we saw it was there and we spent it on things. So I don't know if we want to look at a plan for the rest. We do have some plan, but was it a plan for the rest of it, or was it was kind of a, this is what we spent it on and we voted?
we need to have a subcommittee. We need to do that more professionally. I mean, essentially, what's happened with the ARPA fund, the bulk of the ARPA funds is, that have been spent, is you're not allowed to save the money.
I know.
So instead of taking money out of the capital investment board pot of money to fund all of the capital needs that we had, we use the ARPA funds, which is a backdoor way of saving it in the capital investment board for future use. I mean, it's so, but yeah.
We'll talk to them.
We need to schedule out what we're going to do. That's-
Give you our suggestion, maybe in the future agenda.
Future
Yeah,
agenda.
interestingly, we had a Zoom meeting with our auditing firm today on the topic, and we get good grades on the selections that you've made, for spending existing ARPA funds. You may have to relook at some of those things as definitions start to get finer. The auditors are looking ahead 3 years to when, as they describe, some mid-level bureaucrat somewhere in D.C. is culling over your expenditures. They want to make sure that, well, what we've done, they volunteered this. They said, you've done a good job so far, but you know what? We have to get a little bit finer about our definitions in our fund titles and things to withstand scrutiny 3 years from now.
So we'll do that at a future agenda. We'll get the more
August.
details.
In
Yeah.
August, we've already made a plan for that.
And just to follow up on that, we absolutely going to make sure we dot every I and cross every T. There's no way that DC is looking at a $2.4 million ARPA spending when they spent almost $2 trillion in federal money. They just don't have the resources to look at. The $2.4 million that we got is a tremendous amount of money for this town. It's a rounding error in ARPA funds. They're going to be looking at the $100 million cities, not the $2.4 million. They're just not going to. We're going to do it right.
Yeah.
But I
Come
understand
back
where the
and
auditors
say
are.
if we come back and say we spent $22,000 on something, I'd be very, very surprised. But we're going to follow the rules.
We're going to make sure it's done right.
We're
but-
going to do it right.
Yeah,
but,
okay, so future, we can talk about it in the future. That's all I ask.
Already, it's your August regular meeting, we should be ready for that.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you. So next item on the agenda, executive session. Consider entering into executive session under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to discuss a strategy with respect to contract negotiation with non-union personnel, and the chair declares that an open meeting discussion may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. Mark?
I'll make the motion. I move to enter into executive session under the provisions, again, of the Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to contract negotiations with the fire chief candidate, and the chair declares that an open meeting discussion may have detrimental effects on the bargaining position of the public body.
Second?
Roll call. Mark?
Aye.
Chris?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Christina? Yes. Me? I am high.
And we are not coming back in, correct?
So we will not be reconvening in open session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.